So now let's talk about display state. Display state is just like configurations, but in case of configuration, we can change physical properties, whereas in display state, we can change visual properties. So now let's go to this configuration option, and here you will obviously see those configurations here, but right underneath this, we have the display state as well. Let's bring it here just to create some room. And we have the default display state 1, in which the assembly looks like this. So all the visual properties of this assembly are saved in this display state currently. Now let's create one more display state. For that, I'll right click here in the blank area and I'll select add display state. Now a new display state is added, so let's rename it. So I'll slowly double click this and let's call it metallic. All right, now this is made with wood, but we want to create another display state where this looks like a metallic file cabinet. But before we do that, let's rename this one too. So I'll simply just double click here and slowly click twice and just rename it. So let's call it default. All right, now double click metallic to activate this. All the changes which I'll make now will be saved in this metallic display state. And to make the changes, I'll just go to this main feature tree, and here I'll activate the appearances tab, and I'll go to appearances and metal. Let's expand this and let's add the appearance of steel. So I'll just go to steel, and here you can select whatever you want to add here as the appearance. So maybe let's just make it with this tread plate. So tread plate, and I'll apply it on this entire cabinet. So there it is. All right. Now, if you want to, you can apply other appearances on all these components. So in this case, I'll maybe change this appearance to something simple. Brush to steel, and it's applied on this entire thing. And let's apply the same for all of these other components. So I'll just apply it on the entire component, and I'll do the same for this complete component, and finally here the complete component. All right, now the appearance has changed and it should show only for this display state. Let's check it. So I'll go to this display state. Here is the metallic. Let's double click the default, and here we are. That's the default one. So we now have these two display states. Now we can not only make display state with different appearances, but we can also change the visual style and other properties. So let's see another display state where only mechanisms are visible. So right click here and I'll select add display state, and I'll slowly double click once again and I'll call it mechanisms. Now in this display state, we just want to show the mechanisms, but as you can see, it just created a copy of metallic because I started with this metallic display state and then I created a copy. If you want to, however, create a new copy which is exactly like any other display state, then select that first, right click, and then create add a display state. And in this case, the new display state copies the property of the selected one. So I just don't want this, so I'll right click and I'll select purge redundant. So all the display states which are not used or not configured are removed. So in this case, now the display state 1 is selected, which is the default one. I can create the copy. So I'll simply select add display state and I'll just call it mechanism. All right. And also we can just rename this one and we can call it default. All right. So double click mechanisms and just go to the main file and let's just expand it so that you can see all the other visual properties. So in this case, I just want to hide this complete cabinet. That's right here. Select it, and here you can simply click this part level and it will hide it completely, or you can change the visual style. I think changing visual style will make more sense because we'll have a visual clue as to where the boundaries are. So maybe I'll just click on visual style and I'll make it wireframe. Now with that visual style, we can see the insides and it also retained the boundaries. So we now have the outer limit. All right, and with this display state, we can actually see what's going on inside. So you can see the mechanisms here and you can see it here as well. So if I just move it, well, the mechanism is clearly visible. Not only that, if I just open this plate, here it is, it's clearly visible, and so is the case with this. So we have now created a completely new display state. Now in this case, let's maybe hide these two panels as well, as they are not very useful in this case. So I'll just go to this left panel and I'll hide it. And then we have the right panel, I'll hide that too. All right, and we now have only the drawer mechanism here with the drawer visible. Now finally, let's save this file. So I'll simply save, and it will save this display state in the current assembly. I'll click on save. All right, so now our file is saved. I'll close this assembly completely, and now let's open it again. So I'll simply go to open, and here I'll just select that full assembly. Now, since we have created several display states, it's going to show up right here. Once you select the assembly, it will list all the display states. So you can select any display state from this list which you want to open. Now in this case, let's select mechanisms. And also in mechanisms, we don't want to load hidden components. Now this can be a great feature if you have a really large assembly with several components, and if you have heavier components that you don't want to load. So in that case, you can create a display state where the heavier components or the components that you don't need are hidden, and then you can uncheck this one, and this will ensure that only visible components are loaded and all the hidden components won't load. So let's just click open, and here we are. So we have this warning message that you can safely ignore, that it is not loading any hidden component, and that's good. That's what we want. So click OK, and here we are. So all the hidden components are not loaded, and this will effectively open your assembly quicker. So with that, we have this assembly with different display states right here. Now, if you want to just change the display state, simply go to this and just change it to anything else that you want from this list, and all the components will obviously load as well in your drawing.